Hello, hello, hello. Pure Potential YouTube members. It's been a minute. It's been a couple of weeks since we were able to do one of these, but I'm happy to be back. Hopefully stick to the usual schedule for the rest of the season, but it's a big time on the Dynasty calendar. Trade deadline's coming up. Got the results back from the poll that I posted in the announcements. It looks like about a quarter of our Discord users will already have their deadline this week, and then everybody else is week 12, 13, 14, or no trade deadline. So next week's video on trade deadline strategy might only be applicable to about 75% of people, but we'll do what we have to do. Freelster, what's up, man? Glad you can make it. Jabulani is here. Got some members. If you're in the chat, shoot me a message. Let me know that you're here, that you're hanging out. The idea for today is taking some submissions from the member stream channel where I asked for some league IDs so that I could plug them into, I'm going to use Dynasty Daddy actually. I like the visualization on the rosters there. So I'm going to pull those up one at a time and then look through your teams, your team, your league, and try to figure out what you should be doing at the trade deadline, if anything. No idea how this is going to go, but I have plenty of teams of my own where I'm going through and making these types of decisions, and I'm going to try to put myself in the shoes of your league and just talk about what I would do, right? How am I approaching risky situations? How am I approaching teams that are maybe a little bit fragile, balancing future value with, current production. So we're gonna give this a shot. Freelster actually sent in, oh no, that wasn't the first team. Josh Jaco sent in the first team. So he'll be the first one up. We'll look at his team called Josh Jacobs Jingleheimer and talk about targeting a running back or a quarterback. We got Cap 10 Yap here. You had a question, I think, that was unrelated to the topic here. So let me just answer that real quick. How valuable is having 3 solid quarterbacks in Superflex? If I have 3 good QBs, Lamar, May, Darnold, should I try to hold on to all 3 unless I get a crazy offer? So actually, I've been moving more the other direction, which is that I don't think you really want to have a lot of value tied up in a QB3 because you look around the league. You've been able to get really quality spot starts out of Joe Flacco, Marcus Mariota, Jacoby Brissett, even Carson Wentz was usable. So Davis Mills was the QB1 last week. I actually think we want to be moving more towards 2 good quarterbacks, right? Like in this case, I do want to have Lamar and May. I want to keep those guys because they are elite. They have a high ceiling, extremely high value insulation. In that situation, I'd probably be looking to move Darnold. In fact, I had a very similar team to this. I had a team with Lamar, Dak, and Darnold, and I actually traded Darnold I traded Darnold and Milrow for a late first, Aaron Rodgers, and a third. And so what that did was I downgraded my third quarterback, which is fine because it's just an emergency piece anyway. So I downgraded to Rodgers, and then I have that extra first that I can either keep and use on another position in the offseason, or I can use that pick to flip and hopefully strengthen another part of my roster. So I don't think you need to hold all 3. Certainly it makes you, it's safer, if you have a really high value team where you're not really hurting at other positions, it can make sense to have 3 solid quarterbacks, but I think it's a bit of a luxury that can hamstring other parts of your team. So that would be my take. And I think just in general, quarterbacks are like becoming easier to acquire. People are less strict about holding them. It just seems like the market is moving more and more towards devaluing quarterbacks, which makes it more appealing to kind of play it by ear and piece things together. All right. Let's move over to the team view here. Oh, that's my spreadsheet. Shout out to Yella. Shout out to Yella for putting this together. He just volunteered out of the blue to make a little spreadsheet to put all the questions and messages and league IDs in, and he sent this over. It was very nice looking. Screen is cropped in a weird way, so you can't see the left side, but regardless, I appreciate everything he does for the brand, for the Discord. Josh Jacobs, I assume Joshua Jacobs is Josh Jaco from the Discord, and he is ready to rock. Let's take a look at his team over here on dynastydaddy.com. You can look at this on Fantasy Calc too. You can look at Keep Trade Cut. They all have like different power rankings tools. I just like the visuals of this one. Not necessarily the aesthetics, but just how the rosters are laid out is very easy to like toggle through them. It works very well. So I'm going to take a look at your team here, Josh Jaco, and then we'll get your question. And let me just refresh myself on the league settings down here at the bottom. It's a 10-teamer, 11 league with Superflex, 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, 4 flex spots. So pretty heavy on the flex spots. The start 11 kind of balances out a bit of the scarcity in a 10-team league. It's full PPR, regular tight end premium. So sure. Josh's team is 5-5. That's tricky. If we sort by record here, he's right on the playoff bubble. Looks like sixth out of 10. I'm not sure how many teams make the playoffs typically in a 10-team league, if it's still 6 or if it's 4. I guess it must be 6 unless the playoffs are only 2 weeks. You could let me know if that matters, but 1 game out of the top 4 regardless. He's got Darnold, Purdy. That's nice. Purdy's coming back this week. Kyler, Mac Jones, Bucky, JCM, Monangai, Hubbard, Aaron Jones, Zach Charbonnet, Tajay Spears, Jonathan Brooks. Lots of running back depth, just not a lot at the top, and it's probably been tough with Bucky out, and he's going to be out again this week, hopefully back next week. And then the wide receiver core of Amon-Ra, Egbuka, Rice, Collins, Adunze, Flowers, Hunter. That's crazy, dude. Bowers, Gadsden, Goddard is also pretty crazy in tight end premium. So clearly this team is not distributed in an even way. A lot of value tied up at tight end and wide receiver, not as much at quarterback, running back. But this is a high value team. You know, the Dynasty Daddy rankings have it at second. I will say that a lot of the values here seem very out of whack to me, you know, like where JCM is sitting relative to Monangai. Their values aren't great. Like Rashee Rice sitting way behind Amon-Ra, like almost half his value. So I wouldn't put too much stock into that, but it does view you as the second most valuable team. And I would say, I mean, this wide receiver core and these tight ends with, you know, your own first still intact, all your future first intact, this is a high value team. So, and you're in the playoff picture right now. So this is a team that I think you would want to be pushing some value in to strengthen that running back position, potentially even the quarterback position, because you have a very good chance, I think, with this team. If you can get Bucky back healthy, the group of Amon-Ra, Egbuka, Rice, Collins, Adunze, Flowers, plus Bowers and Gadsden in a start 11, I mean, that's a really, really strong group. You have tons of spike week upside there. You have a nice full PPR floor there. This is a team I would want to be competitive. So your exact question, how aggressive should I be in targeting running back or quarterback upgrade? I would be very aggressive in doing that. Because again, you have so much value insulation with these wide receivers. Like you have so many young guys that are going to carry a ton of value from this season to next. So sacrificing a little bit of value now, you know, buying a player that might be depreciating or expiring is just not going to really move the needle for your team long term. So I'd be looking first at the teams here at the bottom of the standings and just seeing if they have some expendable pieces. And you know, it's going to vary league to league how rational the other managers are about where their teams are. But like this guy right here, the power of friendship, sitting here at a 3-7 record. You know, Daniels is out, Hampton is out, Harrison's out this week. He's going to lose again. He doesn't need Javonte Williams. You know, you could use Javonte Williams a lot more than he could. So like that's exactly where I would start. I would go hit this manager up and say, hey, I have some wide receivers. I have some extra pieces I could move. What can I give you for Javonte Williams? Because I think right away that puts you in a much better spot. That upgrades easily the worst part of your lineup, that running back 2 spot, in a significant way. You say the Barkley owner wants a first and a second. Javonte wants a first. Okay, so let's find here's the Barkley owner right here. Yeah, a first and a second. Like your first being currently the 105, but potentially obviously could be later, plus a second. That's a little bit more than I would want to pay for Barkley, but at the same time, the Eagles have a pretty favorable schedule coming up in terms of matchups. And again, you have this surplus of value. So I don't think that's a terrible deal. I think before sending a first and a second for Barkley, I would go back to the Javonte manager and see if you could talk him down at all. Like, could you send 2 seconds and JCM? Could you send 2 seconds and Spears, right? Something like that. That just feels a lot better to me than the first. So you could at least try that. But I think you should pony up for the Barkley price if that's an option and you can't get a better deal. Because again, this team with Saquon Barkley added is absolutely in contention. The 49ers also have a very good schedule. So like whether it's Purdy or Jones starting, I think that's a very good starting quarterback option. And then Darnold is totally fine. He's functional. You could certainly look for another option. Curious if there are other good options on these teams that are below you in the standings. I don't know that there's really anybody there's not really any kind of go-to cheap quarterback streaming options. Like Brissett is fine. I don't know if he's really an upgrade on Darnold, maybe a small one. But looking at other running backs on these lower end teams, I do actually really like Woody Marks as a target. I don't mind RJ Harvey either, but I think you're probably going to be asked for that first round pick again, which I really wouldn't send. And yeah, I mean, those are really your best candidates on these lower end teams. I think you do need to go into this assuming Bucky's going to get you there. You can't really you can't hedge every possible outcome. So I would say, yes, I'd be open to adding another running back, but I think it's got to be, you can't go for, I wouldn't go for like a Javonte and Barkley. Like, I just think you're probably going to have to spend a little bit too much on that. But if you could add somebody cheaper like Marks, I will say you do have Aaron Jones. I think Aaron Jones is a very startable piece in a start 11 league. Like, he's a fine RB2 fill-in. He's projected for like 13 or 14 fantasy points. And then you have some outs to other usable guys, right? Like if there was a Walker injury, you've got Charbonnet. If there was a Dowdle injury, knock on wood, you've got Hubbard. If there's a Swift injury or things just continue to shift in that backfield, you have Monangai. So you also have some outs, some guys you can at least flex and expect some production. So yeah, I think it's very straightforward for me what I'd be doing with this team. I would be willing to take a bit of a value loss, overpay a little bit for Barkley or Javonte. I'd also look into Woody Marks, RJ Harvey, some of those other running backs that are on teams that don't really need them. And then I wouldn't worry too much about quarterbacks, but you have enough extra value to play with. If you could flip one of your receivers with one of your quarterbacks for a big upgrade, or you could use some of your extra picks to upgrade one of these quarterbacks and you felt like you were getting a good value, I would not be opposed to that. I would not be messing around with the 2027 first or the 2028 first. Just, you don't need to use those picks. Just let them sit there. Let them accrue value. So, all right. That was the first one. That was good. Let's go to Nate next, our resident optimist. Let's take a look at his team. Yeah, I would certainly be open to Mahomes. I think he might be hard to get because of how much value you already, like, you're going to have to send that first probably for one of the running backs. But like, let's say if you were able to negotiate a trade for Javonte without moving the first, then I would go to the Mahomes manager and say, okay, I've got Darnold, I've got a first. What else do you need on top of that? And just see how extreme the ask is. And maybe there's something workable there. You could always hit me up in the Discord if you have a trade offer in place and you're not sure if you like it or not. All right, Nate's team. He wants to know, it's a super lean team. Because of how lean my team is, I have the third lowest max points for, but I'm 8-12, potentially 10-12, so could sneak into the playoffs. Given the strength of the top 3 teams, I have decided to make sure I will miss playoffs to get the 103. Worth it to force more points off for the 102 or 101 by moving Waddle and 2 seconds for Garrett Wilson, or try for Tet, maybe move Puka. Finally, would sneaking into the playoffs be reasonable or not? Okay, so a couple different questions going on there. Let's look at these top teams. I'm not a big believer in the unbeatable teams, but it's definitely possible if you have a very fringy playoff team that you don't have a realistic chance. So like that's totally a real thing. In this case, we have Love, Stroud, Kyler. So already we're pretty rough at quarterback because Kyler's out, Stroud is out this week. None of these quarterbacks are really lighting it up. Genty is awesome as a dynasty asset. He's not like a league winning type of running back right now. Puka, Brian Thomas, Jalen Waddle, Colston Loveland. Yeah, so I agree. I agree with missing the playoffs, trying to miss the playoffs here and get an early pick. I totally agree with that. This team's just not quite there. And, you know, some of the injuries have really taken a toll. So I would be looking to miss the playoffs. As far as what to move, I'm still of the opinion that Waddle and 2 seconds for Garrett Wilson is a bit much, especially when you have a lean team like this that realistically needs to be replenishing the bottom half of the roster with rookies, or at least using those assets to bring in multiple pieces that can contribute or accrue value. I wouldn't want to be consolidating like that around a guy in Wilson who I think is better than Waddle. I wouldn't necessarily say he's a lock to be, you know, a massive outscorer in the future. So I would not make that deal. I'd be much more inclined if it was the deal for McMillan because he's younger, he's more value insulated. I think his value ceiling is higher. That would be much more appealing. Otherwise, I would be trying to sell Waddle for a first plus whatever else you can get on top of it. It can help to look at some of the other teams that are struggling. This team, you know, maybe a little bit weak at wide receiver. Probably wouldn't want to move Neighbors. In fact, you might have even mentioned this guy and talked about trying to send Puka for Neighbors on this team, and he was being difficult about it. So this guy might not be a good trade candidate. Maybe this guy, he's got a very weak wide receiver room. Unfortunately, doesn't have any firsts this year or next year. Makes him a bit of an awkward trade partner. I'm not sure even what I would want for Waddle on this team. If you were going to trade with this guy, I don't really know what he could give you. You know, you've got some pieces like Ayuk and Downs, but I don't know. That guy's kind of gross. Yeah, so it can be tough. I mean, you might just have to wait, see if anything opens up, or maybe you can maybe not selling him for a first, but maybe selling him for like a tier down plus a second. Like, could you move Waddle for QJ plus a second, or plus Woody Marks or something, turn him into 2 pieces? I don't know. It is definitely awkward. Maybe a deal for Scadaboo on this team. But yeah, I don't know. You know, I don't know your exact max points for, so I don't know how much Waddle is impacting things. I would definitely want to get like Parker Washington off this team for any 3rd or 4th round pick. I'd want to get Zach Ertz off this team for really any 4th round pick. Like, maybe you don't even need to move Waddle. Maybe you could just move enough of these other pieces that it doesn't really matter, and your max points for will drop anyway. Spears, you know, I'm not sure what you're getting for Spears, but he's another guy you could float out there. So maybe moving some of these bench pieces. If the league is not going to value Waddle or Brian Thomas appropriately, I would just keep them because I think they're both going to be useful again next year. I don't think either of them is going to lose value from where they currently sit. At least I don't think Brian Thomas will. I think Waddle is like, could drop a bit in the offseason, not like anything insane. And if you're not getting fair offers, then it doesn't really matter. As far as Puka, I'd probably keep him on this team and see if you can just build around him, because you've got 2 firsts, you've got a second, you also have 2 2027 firsts. I don't think this team is so shallow and devoid of value that you need to move a star in Puka. If you could move him and still stay in that elite tier, like moving him for Neighbors Plus would have been great. Not really seeming like an option. If you could move him for like McMillan, who had McMillan? If you can move him for like McMillan plus a first or something, maybe that's, you guys can tell me if that's off on value, but like McMillan for Tet and a first, this is like he's got kind of an earlier first. Maybe that's fair for both sides. This guy's trying to compete with the top teams. You know, maybe he has some hope with the RJ Harvey takeover coming. I don't know. But I think that's the right move, is to miss the playoffs here. All right. Next one is Frielster's team. Let's take a look at this one. His team name is Griselda. No deadline in this league. Interesting. But he still needs to make some moves before the playoffs. He's got a strong team, should get a bye, plagued with injuries though. Imagine being plagued with injuries and still getting a bye. That's crazy. Haven't been able to get close to a deal I've liked to send away Neighbors, which feels like it hurts my chances at a championship severely. Would you still make aggressive contending moves even if I'm stuck holding Neighbors? Yeah, I mean, if you're likely to get a bye, I think you should be pretty good with being aggressive. And I see here you've got a 2-game lead on everyone else, even though the Dynasty Daddy algorithm or whatever is labeling you as a frisky team, not a contender. But you've got May and Williams, which is nice. Running back room is a little weak, but you could get Hampton back, hopefully, for the fantasy playoffs. London, McMillan is definitely fragile. You know, your wide receiver 3 is Christian Watson. Hopefully we get a Luther Burden breakout towards the end of the year. And then you've got McBride and Goddard, and you have basically no picks this year. So that's tough. That is pretty tough. It's super flex, 3 wide receivers, 6-point passing touchdowns, and a full point tight end bonus. Okay. Well, with knowing that, the extra points for passing touchdowns and the heavy tight end premium, I think that puts you in a better spot, because you actually do have a pretty dangerous combo at quarterback. You have the best tight end in fantasy right now. And, you know, Goddard's been very serviceable. And then you have London. I think between May, Williams, McBride, London, and then hopefully not Malik Neighbors, hopefully Amari and Hampton back healthy, you've got enough spike week potential in those 5 of your 10 starters that you can go toe to toe with pretty much anyone. So I don't know that you need to do anything crazy. I think some things that come to mind here, Kenneth Walker is certainly a guy I like and I would like to have in the future. I'm hoping for the best, but he is a player I would at least be willing to shop and see if there are truthers out there in your league. If there's somebody that wants to buy low on him, maybe on one of these lower end teams. They probably don't have any good players, but for example, you know, moving Walker for like Trey Benson plus something, if it's possible, like maybe Walker plus Tez Johnson. No, that's not gonna. Yeah, Walker plus Tez Johnson for Troy Franklin and Trey Benson. I don't know, something like that. You know, maybe you can downgrade a little bit from Walker, upgrade another starting spot, get a running back that's more usable down the stretch. I don't know how realistic that is. You know, what would you have to add to Walker to get RJ Harvey right now? It could maybe justify doing that. But yeah, I don't think I would make any massive moves if Neighbors just isn't going to draw the right type of return. You obviously don't want to force anything there. So I think your better move is trusting your studs to get there. Trusting your studs in May, Caleb, Drake London, Trey McBride, Hampton to deliver those big games. And then just trying to like work the edges a little bit. Try to get some cheap points wherever you can. I think Warren also, you know, very startable through the playoffs. So you're not in a bad spot. You look at some of these other teams, like this guy's, you know, this is a strong team. It's hard to beat. Puka and JSN, Bijan, Chase Brown, but it's definitely not worlds better than your core of players, especially because the quarterbacks aren't quite as good. This guy, Jaden, his quarterbacks are a mess. Gibbs and Henry is nice. Rice, Adunze, Marv, Flowers, Pickens. His tight ends are much worse than yours. Like you're not way behind, and you getting the bye already gives you an advantage. So I don't think you need to be super worried. I don't think you need to do anything drastic, but maybe try to work some lower end deals. All right. AJ got greedy and submitted 2 teams, so we're just going to take a look at the first one and see what we're working with here. Okay. Let's take a look here. Hey, I'm in a league with this guy. All right. This league is one where he says he feels like his value isn't being used efficiently. Team is 7-3, unlikely to get a bye. Team name is Quit Joshing Around. Let's take a look at the standings here. He's 3rd. Unlikely to get a bye. He's only 1 game out. He's ranked 10th in the value according to Dynasty Daddy. Again, that's not perfect. But we've got Allen and May and Geno. I think that's a pretty good quarterback room. McCaffrey, Bucky, Warren, Isaiah Davis. Gets real thin at running back real quick, but you've got good names at the top. Pickens, Hunter, Debo, Keenan, Tyreek, Hollywood, Calvin Ridley, and then Tyler Warren, Dallas Goedert, Kate Otten. He's got a 1st-round pick from the current 2 seed, no other 2026 picks, has most of his other future picks intact. Yeah, I guess I would disagree with the claim that value is not being allocated efficiently. Feels like it's pretty efficient in the sense that all of your high value pieces, other than maybe Hunter, are, major contributors. You have consolidated around like high end young players. This is a start 11 league, and you've got really good options, assuming Bucky comes back healthy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'd say 7 of your starters are like very strong. Debo and Keenan are serviceable. Goddard is serviceable. That gets you to 10. So you're looking at, maybe one of your spots is a little bit weak. I think Kate Otten is startable though, for sure. Especially if this is tight end premium. Oh my gosh, why are there so many bonuses? It's 0.75 tight end premium. Okay, Kate Otten is very usable in this. So that's nice too. Yeah, and it's 6-point passing touchdowns. So your quarterback advantage is actually even more pronounced. Yeah, I have really no issues with this team. I don't think it needs a lot. You're going to be losing some value for sure in Debo and Keenan. But I don't think there's a lot you can do about that right now, to be honest. It's not like their market value is that high. You're probably not getting anything back for them that's going to really help you a lot long term. You're probably not getting 2nd rounders for them. So I think this is a team where you just kind of let it play out. You don't sacrifice any more value on this team to try to keep it in contention. I think you just let things go, and you see, can Allen and May and McCaffrey and Warren just smash in the playoffs and get me there? Or am I looking at, am I looking at the 3rd place game? Basically is where I'd be with this team. Do want to note this comment here from Freelster. Laporta going on IR. I did not realize that either. I didn't know. I knew he was hurt. I found out last night he was hurt because I'm in a league with a Lions fan, and we were talking a little bit about the game, and he mentioned Laporta not practicing this week, but I had no idea he had like this type of an injury that he could go on IR. That is very interesting for Jameson Williams. I think he is the biggest beneficiary. I mean, it helps Gibbs and Amon-Ra a little bit just because there's going to be a little bit more target share to go around for those players. But Jameson Williams looked amazing in the first game of Dan Campbell calling plays. He was using him in more of the crossing route in breaking, not in breaker, but like he was getting him the ball more quickly and in space, not just reserving him for like these 20 plus yard deep shots. And when Laporta was out last year is when Jameson was really putting up numbers. So he's a big winner, and he could actually be, he could easily be in the high end wide receiver 2 mix for the time Laporta is out. Not that any of us really roster any Jameson Williams, and not that anybody's really going to sell their shares of Jameson Williams. But speaking of him, I just had a trade go down in one of my leagues. Somebody moved Garrett Wilson for Jameson Williams and Isaiah Likely, which is pretty interesting, I would say. Not a deal I'd be making, but to each his own, I guess. The team that got Jameson Williams is actually the 7 seed. So I guess he's just like really desperately trying to make the playoffs. I don't really get what he's thinking there, but yeah, that's pretty interesting. All right. Let's look at the next one. From Nikolai. Week 14 trade deadline. Let's take a look. Middle of the pack team, week 14 deadline. Haven't had the guts to pull the trigger and contend. Riddled with injuries. Bucky, Daniels, Kraft. High in max points for compared to other tankers. Therefore, the earliest my pick can be, I guess, is 106 if I don't make the playoffs. Would you just ship off some vets for picks or ride it out and maybe boost up, the wide receiver room? I mean, if the earliest pick you're getting is 106, there's just absolutely no way that I'm actively trying to miss the playoffs. You might as well make the playoffs and just see what happens, because you're not gaining anything. If you lose in the first round, your pick's going to be, 1 or 2 spots later. So I wouldn't do that. Team is Daniels, Dart, Penix, Geno, Mac Jones, Bucky, Chase Brown, Tootin, AJ Brown, Jalen Waddle, Rashid Shaheed, Romeo Dobbs, Torrey Horton, Jawan Jennings, Christian Watson, Jalen Coker, Trey McBride, Tucker Kraft, Brenton Strange. Got your own first. You've got 2 seconds, third. Looks like you've got all of your own picks and a couple of extra picks in the future, so that's good. They've got you second in overall value, which is good. It means you don't really need to be worried too much about how things are going. I would pick up Chris Rodriguez, first of all, if this is accurate and he's on waivers. He is probably the starting running back this week against the Dolphins, which is a pretty favorable matchup. It is a tight end premium league. Everything looks pretty normal. 6-point passing touchdowns, though, full PPR. So here's the thing that's going for you. The Commanders seem like they want to bring Daniels back this year. I don't really know why. They have a week 12 bye, and I think you'll find out after that bye whether he's going to play again this year. So that gives you some time to make decisions. Jackson Dart, obviously, when healthy, is a great fantasy quarterback option. So you've got 2 good quarterbacks here, potentially. You've got Bucky and Chase Brown, 2 good running backs down the stretch. You have nothing else at running back, which is a little scary. AJ, I don't know what to do with AJ Brown. I think he's going to have a good game this week, so maybe you can trade him. Jalen Waddle, Rashid Shaheed, Romeo Dobbs. I mean, yeah, it's not the strongest contending team I've ever seen, but I think there's enough pieces here that you can see the vision. If I was looking at a couple moves to consider, I mean, I think adding a running back would probably be smart before the deadline, just to have one in case you need a reserve option. Also might be more plausible to get a startable running back off of a bad team as opposed to a wide receiver. See if there's any good options on these teams. These 2 teams have nothing. Man, it's gross out here. You can look at, you could ask about Kyron. I doubt the market's typically not very rational on Kyron. I like Alec Pierce as a buy. Troy Franklin, I'd be fine buying either of those players, at a reasonable price tag. Kind of like late second value for Pierce and mid second for Franklin, I think is reasonable. I wouldn't really want to buy Montgomery, although his usage was actually a little bit better with Dan Campbell in charge, they were kind of going back to the rotating drives thing. So Montgomery might get a little bit of a boost if that holds. He's probably still in that mid to late second range. I'd say don't really want to buy Walker or Charbonnet. Maybe this guy's got something. Yeah, you don't have a lot of running back trade options. So you might have to just settle for Kyron or Montgomery and see if those guys are available. Otherwise, you're going to be riding with a very, very thin running back group. I don't know that anybody ahead of you is going to really be wanting to move their guys. Maybe you could look at Woody Marks, just a guy that's potentially a little undervalued, rookie player, so not necessarily a 1 year only buy. And then looking at some of these other higher end teams, like I doubt they're going to part with anybody. Maybe you could send a very late pick for like Kareem Hunt just to have some kind of depth, or even Aaron Jones. You could look at Aaron Jones has a pretty good schedule in the fantasy playoffs. If he can be had for a 3rd round pick and I don't know, some bench player like Malik Washington, I would happily pay that. The other thing you could do is look at moving Kraft. I'm not opposed to that. Or trying to move Penix. If we can feel confident in Daniels coming back, moving Penix would be nice. Just you could try to move him straight up for some picks. You could try to move him in a package to upgrade at wide receiver or running back. Let me look at some of these teams, see if there's any other players that I would love to get. I mean, you could ask this guy about Jameson Williams, this rebuilding team. Maybe, I guess he wouldn't love adding Kraft because he's already got the strong tight end room. So that makes it trickier. You don't have a lot of other expendable pieces other than rookie picks. He is light at quarterback. Maybe by some miracle, he is a Michael Penix fan. You could work something out around Michael Penix, plus something for Jameson Williams. We've also got a Nico Collins down here on this team. There could be something there. But this is what I would be doing. I would be going to these these teams that are clearly not trying to win, seeing who are they committed to keeping, who is expendable, and then say, okay, look, these are the pieces I have, right? Tucker Kraft can go. I've got a first. Need to move that first. I need to really be wowed. I need to be getting a legit piece. I'm not moving my first for Kyron Williams because I might miss the playoffs. I've got 2 seconds here. Make some of those available. I've got Michael Penix, and just see. You don't need to be too aggressive. If week 12, week 13 comes around and you're suddenly like, I'm probably not going to make the playoffs, then you turn around and you just completely change your approach and you try to flip, send away Dobbs, send away Chase Brown to the highest bidder, send away, AJ Brown, Jalen Waddle if you can. It completely flips. Juwan Jennings, but at least give yourself a shot to make the playoffs with this team, I think. All right. My neck hurts. I need to move this screen to the other side here. Okay. All right, Nick G is next. Man, I got to pick up the pace here. This is going to take forever. All right, Nick G. I'll get to as many as I can, guys. I am going to dinner at my parents' house tonight, so I need to make sure that I'm done in enough time to get to that. But I'll try to move a little more quickly through these. This is a smaller league, it looks like. Currently in first, likely to get a bye. I've got little depth at wide receiver and running back. Should I be leveraging 26 draft capital and rookies to find some productive depth, or is depth overrated? Depth is overrated, but this is when you have a deadline and you have a strong team. That's when you should be willing to pay up a little bit for some depth. You are in first, I can see. You're 2 wins up. This is a median league. 10 teams start 11, half PPR with a tight end premium. So that makes the tight ends a little interesting. Genuinely would pick up Greg Dulcich in this. I think he's actually flex worthy in a tight end premium format, especially start 11. You've got Herbert, Prescott, Kyler, Flacco, Mariota. You might be without a quarterback 3 by the time the fantasy playoffs come because Kyler could still be out. Burrow could be back. Daniels could be back, but I wouldn't do anything with that. Achane, McCaffrey, Barkley, ETN, not lacking on running back depth, that's for sure. Chase, Amon-Ra, Zay, Juwan, Besh, Warren, Njoku, Juwan. Okay. I don't know how low you are on depth because just looking at who's in your starting lineup right now, you've got 4 running backs in. You've got these 3 wide receivers. You still have Jennings on the bench. He's very much a startable player. Jawan Johnson is very startable in tight end premium, even Njoku and Schultz. You can use those guys. And then Jalen Noel could still potentially break out here late in the season. So I don't know. I don't think you actually have a huge need in terms of depth. You might want to look into a little bit of security here at quarterback. Like maybe we see who the Brissett manager is. Jacoby Brissett sitting here as the 4th quarterback on this team. Like maybe you could get him thrown into a deal pretty cheaply and just know that you have a 3rd quarterback just in case. I wouldn't want to spend a lot of value on that 3rd quarterback though, just knowing what you already have in place. And there's not a lot of other great late season quarterback opportunities. Let's see. Otherwise, I would just be looking. I mean, the hack is always just trying to poach the teams that are out of contention and just seeing what they have available. Somebody like RJ Harvey is someone I'd be willing to buy. Well, you have pretty strong running backs on this team. I don't know if I'd really go after running back. I think I'd be more looking at wide receiver, actually. I will say in a half PPR, you do want to play the flex spots through running back if you can. You got 3 flex spots, so you could start a 5th running back. So if there's a price that makes sense on a 5th running back, I would go after that. Trey Benson, I think, is a good try to buy low candidate. I like Monangai as a buy. So those are some guys I'd look at, but I don't think I think you're in a pretty good spot as it stands. Going back to Joshua Jacobs here, he's got a deal just for his 2027 first for Saquon. I think knowing how strong your wide receiver and running back group is, I think I would go ahead and pull the trigger on that. I think that's a deal you could end up losing a little bit on value, but I don't think, obviously famous last words, but I don't think I think that 27 first is very likely to be a playoff first. So I think you can go for it. I would still check in with the Javonte manager again, just to see, but yeah, that's a fair move. All right. Depressed Texans fan is next. His team name is Kansas City Chiefs. He says, I did a roster breakdown. Oh man, he's thrown me under the bus here. I advised him pushing for a playoff spot. He moved his own first to get Puka and Rome. Well, those are good players. But bad luck has left me at 4-6. What do you suggest doing to keep building for a 2026 playoff berth? Okay, so you're not making the playoffs. That sucks. Oh, Flea Flicker League. Okay. Flea Flicker. Who plays on Flea Flicker? Let's take a look. My first ever Dynasty League was actually on Flea Flicker. It was with Chris, the Discord mod. Free Dynasty League on Flea Flicker. I have since left. I don't play on that site anymore. But all right, we've got here a 4-6 team. Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray. Well, what are the settings here? This is an interesting one. 16 team league with 8 starters. So it's 1 quarterback, but 16 teams. 8 starters being 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, only 1 flex spot. Not a lot of flexibility there. So Genty, and then your RB2 is DeMarcado, Puka, Tet, Rome, Ricky, Jaden Higgins, Colson Loveland, Jake Tonjes. Okay. You've got not your own first, but you do have Danny Hacker's first, and that team is 2-8. So I think you're in a pretty good spot here. You've got your own second, which is going to be early-ish. A couple thirds. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 thirds and 2 fourths. I will say these look like pretty shallow rosters. Maybe you just don't have a full roster. 15 bench spots. Okay, it's not that shallow, but you might not be able to spend all of those picks and hold all of those rookies. Yeah, boring answer, but I don't really think there's a lot you need to do here. Like going into next year, Mahomes is your quarterback, Gentie's your RB1, Puka, Tet, Rome, your 3 wide receiver set, Colson, Loveland, a tight end. That's 6 of your 8 starters. You're going to have an early first to potentially add another guy. You're going to have Pearsall, who can potentially be a flex for you. You're just going to want to hunt for running back value when you can, and this is not the time to go and trade for running backs, really. Other than maybe an injured guy like Scadaboo, you're going to get better prices on running backs in the offseason. So I'd be looking to like take some shots on running backs with these rookie picks. You've got thirds, you've got a second. Look for some running backs that are worth taking shots on, like we did this year. Some of those guys have been useful, some of them haven't. Shout out Bishal Tootin. But then you pair that with maybe some cheaper buys, like find the James Conner type of player that you can go out and get that is going to be startable, doesn't carry a ton of value, and that can kind of get you into the season, and then just see like what emerges from your bench from there. So I don't think you need to be doing a whole lot at this deadline. I'd keep your main 6 guys. Maybe if Pearsall starts popping up with a couple big games, you could try to flip him for a profit, just capitalize on the production. But I don't think there's much else to consider there. All right, next is TC Burke. Week 13, looking to sell. I see. I missed the chat. Yeah, Josh, fair enough. I would rather move your 27 first for Barkley, I think, than just your 26 first for Javonte. I'm just trying to trust in, what we know about Saquon, and it's very possible the Eagles could sort some things out with the interior O-line this offseason, and he could actually have a better year next year. It's not like I'm not worried about his physical decline yet anyway. So I'd go out and get Saquon. Rich, I love to hear that you have that top 3 first. That's going to be awesome for you in a start 8 league where you really want to be chasing superstar players. Looking to sell in this league, says TC Burke, week 13 deadline. Competitors have been very passive, conservative. Only 2 real buy trades have occurred. Getting adequate capital for the players I'm open to selling has been a challenge. Does my team fit the archetype you were thinking of in terms of pursuing a trade for Kyler? That owner also has Scadaboo. Okay, let's take a look. TC Burke, where you at? Wait, what's your team called? Inner Excellence. Okay. There it is. So looking to sell here at an 8-12 record. I can see that. Just lost Dobbins for the year. What pieces here are really sells, right? You don't need to sell Chase, London, McMillan. I'd want to keep those guys. You're not selling Drake May. Everybody else should be out for grabs. Priority sells being AJ Brown, Michael Penix. I'd like to move. This is a super flex start 9. Is this a standard league? There's nothing here for receptions. Oh, I see. It's down here. Reception bonuses are per yardage. So 0.25 points for 5 to 9 yards, 0.5 for 10 to 19, 0.75 for 20 to 29. So it's functions like mostly like a half PPR format with a little bit of bonus on top. Yeah, so you asked about Kyler, you asked about Scadaboo. Who has Kyler? 9 and 11 team. I don't know if this team is really trying to compete either. Like they are technically in the last playoff spot, so maybe they are. They have Bijan. Yeah, I mean, if I had this team, I wouldn't consider myself a contender, but maybe they do. In that case, you could look to try to flip like Penix for Kyler. Maybe they want a third quarterback they can trust. You could look at the problem with trying to trade for Scadaboo is you don't really have a running back you can offer them in return. It would be nice if Dobbins was healthy. You could try like AJ Brown and Tajay Spears for Jalen Noel and a first round pick, something like that. Yeah, something like that I think would make some sense. But yeah, that's a tough one. Let me just see some of these other teams. Like I said, you don't have a ton of pieces that are going to be like super sought after. Like Khalil Shakir in this format, if you could get a second round pick for him, I would take it, just because the reception settings or scoring settings are not going to be favorable. And then like non-tight end premium from what I could see. So that doesn't really get people excited about Njoku, Brenton Strange. Just might be a spot where you need to sell a little bit low, or just hold some of these guys and hope that they actually carry a little bit more value than you might expect. I'd be happy to re-roll Njoku for a third. I'd re-roll like Christian Watson for a couple of fourths if you could get it. Maybe you could sell Isaiah Davis to the Breece Hall manager for a third. Like, there's just not a lot here to move. Daniel Jones might be appealing to somebody if there's like a contender with a bad quarterback group. Like, this team has a really crappy group of quarterbacks. Maybe you could sell him Daniel Jones, and you could attach some other piece on your team to it to try to get a little bit of extra value, like Daniel Jones and Khalil Shakir for their first, second, and third round pick, something like that. I think that can make sense. But yeah, I think there's just not a ton of flexibility there, unfortunately. Same thing would apply to Penix as well. If you go to any of these teams, there's some really rough quarterback situations here in the playoff race. So I think that would be my tact, is trying to move Jones and or Penix to those teams and attaching some of your other pieces to see if you can get some extra late picks thrown in, seconds, thirds, fourths, and move on from guys that way. All right. Cole M. Team is Weenie Hut General. Classic SpongeBob reference. Let's take a look. Oh, he's sitting right at the top of the value standings here. 10 teams start 8 league. 2 wide receiver, 2 running back, half PPR, 4-point passing touchdowns, no tight end premium. Okay. First thing you need to know about this league is I hate tight ends, and I can see your league hates tight ends too. Terrence Ferguson on waivers, Brenton Strange on waivers, Isaiah Likely on waivers. This team hates tight ends. I guess these are really shallow rosters. We have Jacoby Myers on waivers. That seems crazy. I would not leave Jonathan Brooks on waivers. So if you're watching this, pick up Jonathan Brooks. In this format, you want to roster him. He has the kind of upside that's worth stashing. This is a 1 quarterback league as well. So this is a pretty nasty league. No offense. 1 quarterback, 10 team league is not my speed, but we've got a 5-5 team. You're asking, you've got a lot of injuries still in the race. Should I be aggressive in backfilling, or could I survive? My deadline is after this week ends. Okay, so you don't have a lot of time to work with. It says week 10 deadline. I'm assuming it's week 11 deadline because week 11 is the current week. Daniels, Flacco, Mariota. So you at least have a Commanders quarterback for the playoffs if you make it. Taylor, Hampton, Scadaboo, Harvey. You've got Igbuka, Rice, Marv, Olave, Reed, Bowers, Kraft. Okay. This is probably the worst format to roster Brock Bowers in, but I will say you don't have your own first. So right away, I'm pretty disinterested in tanking the season, especially because you don't really have a lot of depreciating players here. Like, certainly Taylor is at his peak value right now. You could argue it would make sense to flip Jonathan Taylor. I wouldn't be 100% opposed to it if you were going to get the type of value that you see on like Fantasy Calc, where, you know, you're picking up like Genty with a big plus on top to move him. But otherwise, I think I would just rock with this team. Like, you have potentially Daniels, you have Taylor, hopefully Hampton. Harvey could be a huge upside piece down the stretch. Woody Marks could be a big upside piece down the stretch. You've got Igbuka, Rice, which is great. Olave and Harrison are solid enough. And then Bowers is, about as good as you can get at a position that's maybe not going to score the most points, but still a good contributor. So I don't think you need to be too aggressive. I think you can pretty much roll with the guys that you have. I would definitely make Scadaboo and Kraft available as pieces that you could move. I'd prefer to keep the seconds just because you don't have a first. It would be nice to be able to add some more youth to this team in the offseason, some more shots on like value upside. But yeah, I don't think you have to do a ton here. Like one thing that sticks out to me is, can you go trade Charbonnet to the Ken Walker manager? Probably not. He's not even in the race. Yeah, I don't think you need to do a whole lot here. I think you just need some things to go right for you. I would shop Harrison because I'm not a big believer in him. Don't love his price, and I think in a half PPR league especially, he's just not that exciting of a player to roster. So if someone's going to value him highly, I'd be willing to move on. Maybe you could get another piece at running back there. Let me just take a look. I'd at least ask this 2-8 manager what the price is on Genty. I think he's a nice buy low right now. You know, maybe something on top of Marvin Harrison for Genty. Maybe that's wishful thinking. If you could move Marv for like Travis Etienne and a first, that would be pretty cool. Maybe you can move him with a plus for Judkins. Pretty much in half PPR, I'm always looking to fill out the flex spots with running backs. You've got 2 flexes, 2 running back spots, and only 2 wide receiver spots. So I would be pretty heavy on running backs in this league. I'd also want to pick up some of these handcuffs. Isaiah Davis, Tank Bigsby, anybody you can pick up, I'd want to pick up because they're much more likely to come through with a startable week later on. You can drop Giddens in this format, the shallow leagues, and then maybe you could flip somebody like Godwin for like a really late pick, so you don't have to drop him. I wouldn't want to drop him, but if you could get like a 3rd round pick for him in this, I think that's fine. And that would give you the opportunity to pick up a couple more lottery tickets. All right, let's take a look at Jake's team. Jake D. Snake hacking darts. Was building for the future. Find myself on the edge of the playoffs. Mixed feelings on which direction to go. Team is probably too thin to make a push. Okay. Let's take a look. See if it's too thin. He's number 1 in value, so that's always nice. This is a 12-team start 10, super flex, full PPR, tight end premium. Very, very standard league settings. 10-10 team, which puts him 6th in the playoff picture. May and Dart. Okay, RB1 is Tajay Spears. Dude, how have you let it get to this point? This is like a yellow team. This is such a yellow team right here. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4 firsts in 2026. 1, 2, 3, 4 firsts in 2027. 4 seconds in 2027. We're looking at May, Dart, Igbuka, McConkey, Hunter, Jawan, Arande, Colson, Loveland. I mean, this feels like a team you should have been pushing in on weeks ago, to be honest. But I'm not here to judge you. You've got 1st round picks that belong to none of these teams. You have these guys. You have K. Snyder's first. You have the Rags first. You have Ron Smoth's first. Audio is off. Try refreshing. Try refreshing the stream. Sometimes that happens, but I don't really know why. Everything looks good on my end in terms of connection and microphone and stuff. Yeah, I would just try hitting the refresh, but I see 3 different people saying it, so. Okay, I just reset my microphone, so maybe that helps. Let me know if you guys are still having that issue. I'm going to continue, though, with Jake's team. So, yeah, I would have been trying to push some of this value in a little bit earlier. But you have these 1st round picks. You have these teams that are way out of the race. I mean, they've screwed themselves completely. I think I'd maybe start there. Like, you have the Rags 1st round pick. He is sitting 2nd lowest record, probably top 3 pick. I'd want to know, what do you need to add to that pick to get Genty, and maybe even buy Benson and or Marks. Like you could actually just fix your entire running back room with one. If you could trade his own first, let's say his own first and your first, maybe like something like that. And maybe even throw in an extra, some other extra piece. I don't know what it would be. Braylon Allen, some other things. Jalen Coker, I don't know. Throw something in. Buy Genty, Benson, and Marks, and then just go into the playoffs and just see what happens. I genuinely think, or you could try Hunter. You could try his own first and Hunter for Genty, Benson, Marks. Like, try out these different combinations. Look at some of these other teams. You could make an offer for Derrick Henry on this team that absolutely has no reason to roster him. Travis Etienne. I don't know how rational these managers are, but these managers should be willing to move some of these depreciating pieces at pretty reasonable prices. I don't see why not try to sneak into the playoffs when you already have the number 1 value team. You already have all these picks. You have a young core. I think you just go for it. All right, got to get to Yella's team here. I apologize for anybody that's still having audio issues. I really have no idea what could be causing that. Unsurprisingly, Yella is sitting here top of the value rankings. But he's 4 and 6. Says team looks cool, but I think quarterback holding me back. Lots of draft capital. I assume I need to use some to upgrade quarterback or move neighbors. 4 and 6, 5th in points. 10-teamer, start 11. Super flex. 15 bench spots. Full PPR, 5-point passing touchdowns. Full point tight end premium. Why is Greg Dulcich on waivers in a full point tight end premium? You guys got to pick him up. All right. Drake May, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young. Well, you've got one great quarterback. Genty, Hampton, Henderson, Harvey, Jefferson, Neighbors, Rice, Tet, Quentin Johnson, Kayshon Boutte, Parker Washington, Brock Bowers, Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland. That's a crazy group in full point tight end premium. This team, you have 7 future firsts. Okay. Yeah, it's malpractice for this team to not be a top contender this year, just wasting a season. You got to get this team in the playoffs. I mean, there's too many good pieces here. Hopefully you get Hampton back. The fact that Henderson and Harvey are breaking out at the right time, I think is going to give you a shot. I would sell Bryce for like any second round pick, and I would just rather have Jacoby Brissett in my lineup. If you can just go buy some quarterback from a team, see what you could add to Bryce for Daniel Jones. Send Bryce in a second. Bryce and I don't know what you'd send. You don't really have any seconds. Bryce and a 27 second for Daniel Jones, something like that. Maybe you could get, I don't know. Oh, Brock Purdy's a good target actually right now. You could go try to trade for Brock Purdy. I would send Bryce and one of your 27 firsts or 26 firsts pretty easily for Brock Purdy to upgrade. Or you could try to upgrade from Stroud, which would be even cheaper. Send a little something on top of Stroud, just a small thing for Purdy, or a bigger offer to get to like Caleb, like Stroud and a first and something for Caleb. Like there's so many ways you could upgrade that quarterback spot. And honestly, nothing else really looks like it really needs an upgrade. Genty, Henderson, Harvey are going to be startable. Hampton's going to be back. You could start all 4 of those players down the stretch. And even if Hampton's out, you have Vidal. Jefferson, Rice, McMillan, QJ is also startable. Parker Washington startable. And then you have Bowers and Warren and even Loveland that you could flex. I don't know how many flex spots you've got. 3 flex spots, 3 wide receiver spots. So yeah, this team doesn't really need a whole lot, but I would definitely try to upgrade one of the quarterbacks. Maybe you could try to get another elite wide receiver, turning QJ into another elite wide receiver, or upgrading from Tet to, Amon-Ra or Lamb or something like that. I'm happy. I would be pursuing sending some of those picks away. Suvo 88, I think probably going to have to be the last one for today. Cause like I said, I have to get going here shortly. I apologize if I didn't get to your team. I'm going to finish up with Suvo's here. He's another number one value team. Deadline in week 12. Half PPR tight end, or sorry, half point tight end premium PPR, 4-point passing touchdowns, coming out of a rebuild and in first place, but don't like my chances. Used my first to get Barkley after Hampton went down. What could I do to help me make the push? Would be reluctant to move Neighbors, but I'd consider it. Feels like I need some help at wide receiver. Okay. So he's number one in value. He is the tied for the best record. Caleb Williams, Baker Mayfield, CJ Stroud, Barkley, Hampton, Scadaboo, Benson, Woody Marks, Tracy Vidal. So you've got the Chargers back locked up. JSN, Neighbors, Higgins, Olave, QJ, Burden, Keon, Torrey Horton, blah, 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 blah. Lots of wide receiver depth. Laporta just went out. That sucks, but at least you've got Gadsden and Barner right there ready to go. You have no first round pick. You have your own, you have someone else's second. I don't know why you don't like your chances here. JSN is elite. Barkley has the spike week potential. You have the Chargers running back who's a high scoring piece. Trey Benson's going to come back. He's got a good schedule. Woody Marks is breaking out. Caleb and Baker are totally serviceable. Quarterbacks, Gadsden is solid. Like, this is not maybe a title favorite, but if you can get a bye week, you just have to win 2 matchups. This team can absolutely win. I mean, I would at least look at Neighbors trade options, but like there might not be anything that makes a lot of sense. This 4-6 team here has Lamb. I would trade Neighbors for Lamb. I wouldn't mind throwing in a little bit of a plus. I made a similar deal. I traded Neighbors and a late second and a third for Puka. I'm fine with that when it helps you significantly. So maybe go to this team and look at Lamb. Maybe you could get Egbuka plus for Neighbors. He projects well the rest of the way. Probably wouldn't go much lower than that. You could look at Amon-Ra. What would you have to add to get Amon-Ra? Teams might try to overcharge you, but you could at least look at it. You could also look at trading for McCaffrey. Who do you have a running back? Barkley, Hampton, Scadaboo. Yeah, I mean, you could look at McCaffrey too. Like maybe you could try Scadaboo. If you're trading with this team that's not in the mix, like could you send Scadaboo and Laporta for McCaffrey and Troy Franklin, something like that? I don't know how even that is, but I would at least look at this McCaffrey team. Like there's no reason an 0-10 team needs Christian McCaffrey. There's just like no, he's clearly tanking. I don't know why he has Kittle and McCaffrey unless he's like a 49ers fan. He has Juwan Jennings and Brock Purdy. Maybe this dude's just like a delusional 49ers fan. That's the only explanation I have. He also has Jordan James, Isaac Orendo, Elijah Mitchell. So every running back that's ever played for the 49ers is on his team. Jordan Mason too. Jacob Cowing. Maybe this dude's not, maybe they're not rational. I don't know. I'd at least check. But yeah, I would look at all of those types of options, but I think your team is not bad. And I don't think you need to be panicked. I don't think you need to make any type of like major value loss type of deals, but you do want to get that buy. And if you can make fairly value neutral moves to improve your lineup for those playoff weeks, I think you should want to do that. CP17, send Ertz for a 27 third. Yeah, I mean, if you're not using him, if you're not starting him, then yeah, for sure. Why not? All right, guys, we're going to wrap this thing up. Appreciate you making it out for the member stream today. I hope that was helpful to those of you that submitted teams, maybe gave some ideas to those of you that were just observing. Again, my bad if I didn't get to your team today, but it was a fun exercise and maybe something we could repeat next week for those of you that are still able to make some deals. All right, I'm going to get out of here. Thanks again, guys. I'll talk to you later.